Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Right here in the live studios in Hythe, southeast England. I'm a little late today because I got a referral to a dermatologist, and I went and they took this, what do you call it? It's what do they call this? It's called anyway, the little spot on my head, they scraped it off and put it in a jar and sent it off to get analyzed. I'll be lucky if I find out in 4 weeks what it is. Anyway, so I got back a little late. Anyway, we're in the middle of Caitanya-caritämrta. Well, not in the middle, the beginning. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the Caitanya-caritämrta was his life and soul. And Srila Prabhupada said it was his only solace while he was coming over on the boat in his first year in America, in New York City, reading Caitanya-caritämrta. So we're lucky. We're in really good company. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he glorified the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta very wonderfully. It's poetic. It's not to be taken literally, as I've said again and again. Rather, it's just his loving way of glorifying the Caitanya-caritämrta and expressing its status, its stature as a scripture. He said, in due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So we've reached the 9th chapter of the Ädi-lilä, wonderful chapter describing the Chaitanya tree. And we've heard already how there were sannyasi roots and the trunk of the tree and the tree itself, everything was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he's also the gardener at the same time. Okay, we're starting from text 17. From the trunk grew many branches, and above them innumerable others. Text 18. Thus the branches of the Chaitanya tree formed a cluster or society with great branches covering all the universe. Purport, listen up. Our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. I'll repeat that. Our Krishna Consciousness, our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is one of the branches of the Caitanya tree. Congratulations, everyone. Text 19. From each branch grew many hundreds of sub-branches. No one can count how many branches thus grew. I shall now try to name the foremost of the innumerable branches. Please hear the description of the Caitanya tree. Text 21. At the top of the tree, the trunk branched into two. One trunk was named Sri Advaita Prabhu, and the other Sri Nityananda Prabhu. 22. From these two trunks grew many branches and sub-branches that covered the entire world. 23. These branches and sub-branches and their sub-branches became so numerous that no one can actually write about them. 24. Thus the disciples and the grand disciples and their admirers spread throughout the entire world, and it is not possible to enumerate them all. Text 25. As a big fig tree bears fruits all over its body, each part of the tree of devotional service bore fruit. Purport. This tree of devotional service, this tree of devotional service is not of this material world. It grows in the spiritual world, where there is no distinction between one part of the body and another. It is something like a tree of sugar, for whichever part of a tree one tastes. For whichever part of such a tree one tastes, it is always sweet. The tree of bhakti has varieties of branches, leaves, and fruits, but they are all meant for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 9 different processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. But all of them are meant only for the service of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, whether one hears, chants, remembers, or worships, one's activities will yield the same result. Which one of these processes will be the most suitable for a particular devotee depends upon his taste. Shall I read that again? You don't mind? Therefore, whether one hears, chants, remembers, or worships, one's activities will yield the same result. Which one of these processes will be the most suitable for a particular devotee depends upon his taste. Text 26. Since Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the original trunk, the taste of the fruits that grew on the branches and sub-branches surpassed the taste of nectar. Text 27. The fruits ripened and became sweet and nectarian. The gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed them without asking any price. Text 28. All the wealth in the 3 worlds cannot equal the value of one such nectarian fruit of devotional service. 29. Not considering who asked for it and who did not, nor who was fit and who unfit to receive it, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed the fruit of devotional service. Purport. This is the sum and substance of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. There is no distinction made between those who are fit and those who are not fit to hear or take part in the Sankirtan movement. It should therefore be preached without discrimination. The only purpose of the preachers of the Sankirtan movement must be to go on preaching without restriction. That is the way in which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced this Sankirtan movement to the world. Text 30. The transcendental gardener, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, distributed handful after handful of fruit in all directions, and when the poor hungry people ate the fruit, the gardeners smiled with great pleasure. 31. Lord Chaitanya thus addressed the multifarious varieties of branches and sub-branches of the tree of devotional service. 32. Since the tree of devotional service is transcendental, every one of its parts can perform the action of all the others. Although a tree is supposed to be immovable, this tree nevertheless moves. Purport. It is our experience in the material world that trees stand in one place, but in the spiritual world, a tree can go from one place to another. Therefore, everything in the spiritual world is called alaukika, uncommon or transcendental. Another feature of such a tree is that it can expand universally. In the material world, the roots of a tree go deep within the earth to gather food. But in the spiritual world, the twigs, branches, and leaves of the upper portion of the tree can act like the roots. Text 33. All the parts of this tree are spiritually cognizant, and thus, as they grow, they spread all over the world. 34. I am the only gardener. How many places can I go? How many fruits can I pick and distribute? Purport. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicates that the distribution of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be performed by combined forces. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he laments, how can I act alone? How can I alone pick the fruit and distribute it all over the world? This indicates that all classes of devotees should combine to distribute the Hare Krishna Mahamantra without consideration of the time, place, or situation. Text 35. It would certainly be a very laborious task to pick the fruits and distribute them alone, and still I suspect that some would receive them and others would not. Text 36. Therefore, Ataeva ami agya dilun sabakare yahan tahan prema pala deha yare tare. Therefore I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. Purport. In this connection, there's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Enhchi aushadi maya nashibara lagi harinama mahamantra lao tumi magi bhakavitinoda prabhu charane padiya se harinama mantra laila magiya. The Sankirtan movement has been introduced by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to dispel the illusion of Maya, by which everyone in this material world thinks himself to be a product of matter and therefore to have many duties pertaining to the body. Actually, the living entity is not his material body. He is a spirit soul. He has a spiritual need to be eternally blissful and full of knowledge. But unfortunately, he identifies himself with the body, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes a tree, sometimes an aquatic, sometimes a demigod, and so on. Thus, with each change of body, he develops a different type of consciousness with different types of activities and thus becomes increasingly entangled in material existence, transmigrating perpetually from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya, or illusion, he does not consider the past or future, but is simply satisfied with the short lifespan that he has gotten for the present. To eradicate this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the Sankirtan movement, and he requests everyone to accept and distribute it. A person who is actually a follower of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord in this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. I'll repeat this again. A person who is actually a follower of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. Text 37. I am the only gardener. If I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? Purport. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu produced so many fruits of devotional service that they must be distributed all over the world. Otherwise, how could he alone relish and taste each and every fruit? The original reason that Lord Sri Chaitanya, the original reason that Lord Sri Krishna descended as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and to taste that love. The fruits of the tree of devotional service were innumerable, and therefore he wanted to distribute them unrestrictedly to everyone. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore writes, Anarpita chidim chida karunaya patirna kalo samar payitum unato jwalarasam subhakti shriyam hari purata sundara juti kadamba sandipita sada hridaya kandade spuratu va sachinandanaha. There were many previous incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but none were so generous, kind, and magnanimous as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For he distributed the most confidential aspect of devotional service, namely the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada desires that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu live perpetually in the hearts of all devotees, for thus they can understand and relish the loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Text 38. By the transcendental desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, water has been sprinkled all over the tree, and thus there are innumerable fruits of love of Godhead. Purport. God is unlimited, and his desires are also unlimited. This example of unlimited fruits is factually appropriate even within the material context. For with the good will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there can be enough fruits, grain, and other foodstuffs produced so that all the people in the world could not finish them, even if they ate 10 times their capacity. In this material world, there is actually no scarcity of anything but Krishna consciousness. If people become Krishna conscious by the transcendental will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there will be enough foodstuffs produced so that people will have no economic problems at all. One can very easily understand this fact. The production of fruits and flowers depends not upon our will, but upon the supreme will of the personality of Godhead. If he is pleased, he can supply enough fruits, flowers, etc. But if people are atheistic and godless then nature, but if people are atheistic and godless, then nature, by his will, restricts the supply of food. For example, in several provinces in India, especially Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and other adjoining states, there is sometimes a great scarcity of foodstuffs due to lack of rainfall. So-called scientists and economists cannot do anything about this. Therefore, to solve all problems, one must seek the goodwill of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming Krishna conscious and worshipping him regularly in devotional service. Text 39. Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. Purport. The Krishna consciousness movement introduced by Lord Chaitanya is extremely important because one who takes to it becomes eternal, being freed from birth, death, old age, and disease. People do not recognize that the real distresses in life are the four principles of birth, death, old age, and disease. Rather, people are so foolish that they resign themselves to these four miseries, not knowing the transcendental remedy of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from all misery. But because people are enchanted by the illusory energy, they do not take this movement seriously. Therefore, those who are actually servants of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu must seriously distribute this movement all over the world to render the greatest benefit to human society. Of course, animals and other lower species are not capable of understanding this movement. But if even a small number of human beings take it seriously, then by their chanting loudly, all living entities, including even trees, animals, and other lower species, will be benefited. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from Haridas Thakur how he was to benefit living entities other than humans, Srila Haridas Thakur replied that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is so potent that if it is chanted loudly, everyone will benefit, including the lower species of life. 1 second. Text 40. If the fruits are distributed all over the world, my reputation as a pious man will be known everywhere, and thus all people will glorify my name with great pleasure. Purport. This prediction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's is now actually coming to pass. The Krishna consciousness movement is being distributed all over the world through the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and people who were leading confused, chaotic lives are now feeling transcendental happiness. Haribol. They are finding peace in Sankirtan, and therefore they are acknowledging the supreme benefit of this movement. This is the blessing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His prediction is now factually being fulfilled, and those who are sober and conscientious are appreciating the value of this great movement. Text 41. One who has taken his birth as a human being in this land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Bharata bhumite hoila manushya janma jar janmat sartakakari karapada upakar. One who has taken his birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsha, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. Purport. The magnanimity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expressed in this very important verse. Although he was born in Bengal, and Bengalis therefore have a special duty toward him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressing not only Bengalis, but all the inhabitants of India. It is in the land of India that actual human civilization can be developed. Human life is especially meant for God realization. As stated in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Anyone who takes birth in the land of India, Bharatavarsha, has the special privilege of being able to take advantage of the instruction and guidance of the Vedic civilization. He automatically receives the basic principles of spiritual life, for 99.9% of the Indian people, even simply village farmers and others who are neither educated nor sophisticated, believe in the transmigration of the soul, believe in past and future lives, believe in God, and naturally want to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His representative. These ideas are the natural inheritance of a person born in India. India has many holy places of pilgrimage, such as Gaya, Benares, Mathura, Prayag, Vrindavan, Haridwar, Rameshwaram, and Jagannath Puri. And still, people go there by the hundreds and thousands. Although the present leaders of India are influencing the people not to believe in God, not to believe in the next life, and not to believe in a distinction between pious and impious life, and although they are teaching them how to drink wine, eat meat, and become supposedly civilized, people are nevertheless afraid of the four activities of sinful life, namely illicit sex, meat-eating, intoxication, and gambling. And whenever there is a religious festival, they gather together by the thousands. We have actual experience of this. Whenever the Krishna consciousness movement holds a Sankirtan festival in a big city like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Ahmedabad, or Hyderabad, thousands of people come to hear. Sometimes we speak in English, but even though most people do not understand English, they nevertheless come to hear us. Even when imitation incarnations of Godhead speak, people gather in the thousands. For everyone who is born in the land of India has a natural spiritual inclination and is taught the basic principles of spiritual life. They merely need to be a little more educated in the Vedic principles. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says here, Janma sartata kari karapada upakar. If an Indian is educated in the Vedic principles, he will be able to perform the most beneficial welfare activity for the entire world. At present, for want of Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, the entire world is in darkness, having been covered by the four principles of sinful life: meat-eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. Therefore, there is a need for vigorous propaganda to educate people to refrain from sinful activities. This will bring peace and prosperity. The rogues, thieves, and debauchees will naturally decrease in number, and all of human society will be God-conscious. The practical effect of our spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world is that now the most degraded debauchees are becoming the most elevated saints. This is only one Indian's humble service to the world. This is only one Indian's humble service to the world. If all Indians had taken to this path, as advised by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, India would have given a unique gift to the world, and thus India would have been glorified. Now, however, India is known as a poverty-stricken country, and whenever anyone from America or another opulent country goes to India, he sees many people lying by the footpaths for whom there are not even provisions for 2 meals a day. There are also institutions collecting money from all parts of the world in the name of welfare activities for poverty-stricken people, but they are spending it for their own sense gratification. Now, on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Krishna consciousness movement has been started, and people are benefiting from this movement. Therefore, it is now the duty of the leading men of India to consider the importance of this movement and train many Indians to go outside of India to preach this cult. People will accept it. There will be cooperation between the Indian people and among the other people of the world. And the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will then be glorified all over the world, and people will naturally be happy, peaceful, and prosperous, not only in this life, but also in the next. For as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who understands Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will very easily get salvation, or freedom from the repetition of birth and death, and go back home, back to Godhead. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore requests every Indian to become a preacher of his cult, to save the world from disastrous confusion. This is not only the duty of Indians, but the duty of everyone, and we are very happy that American and European boys and girls are seriously cooperating with this movement. One should know definitely that the best welfare activity for all of human society is to awaken man's God consciousness or God consciousness. Therefore, everyone should help this great movement. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 35, which is next quoted in the Caitanya-caritämrta. Text 42. Etavaj janma sapalyam dehinam iha dehishu pranayar artar diyavacha shreya acharanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. Purport. There are 2 kinds of general activities: shreyas, or activities which are ultimately beneficial and auspicious, and prayas, or those which are immediately beneficial and auspicious. For example, children are fond of playing. They do not want to go to school to receive an education, and they think that to play all day and night and enjoy with their friends is the aim of life. Even in the transcendental life of Lord Krishna, we find that when he was a child, he was very fond of playing with his friends of the same age. I'll read this again. Even in the transcendental life of Lord Krishna, we find that when he was a child, he was very fond of playing with his friends of the same age, the cowherd boys. He would not even go home to take his dinner. Mother Yashoda would have to come out to induce him to come home. Thus it is a child's nature to engage all day and night in playing, not caring even for his health and other important concerns. This is an example of prayas, or immediately beneficial activities. But there are also shreyas, or activities which are ultimately auspicious. According to the Vedic civilization, a human being must be God conscious. He should understand what God is, what the material world, what this material world is, who he is, and what their interrelationship are. This is called Shreyas, or ultimately auspicious activity. In this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 10:22-35, it is said that one should be interested in Shreyas. To achieve the ultimate goal of Shreyas, or good fortune, one should engage everything, including his life, wealth, and words, not only for himself, but for others also. However, unless one is interested in Shreyas in his own life, he cannot preach of Shreyas for the benefit of others. This verse cited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu applies to human beings, not to animals. As indicated in the previous verse by the words Manusya Janma, these injunctions are for human beings. Unfortunately, human beings, although they have the bodies of men, are becoming less than animals in their behavior. This is the fault of human education. Modern educators do not know the aim of human life. They are simply concerned with how to develop the economic condition of their countries or of human society. This is also necessary. The Vedic civilization considers all aspects of human life, including dharma, religion, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation. But humanity's first concern should be religion. To be religious, one must abide by the orders of God. But unfortunately, people in this age have rejected religion, and they are now busy in economic development. Therefore, they will adopt any means to get money. For economic development, one does not need to get money by hook or by crook. One needs only sufficient money to maintain his body and soul. However, because modern economic development is going on with no religious background, people have become lusty, greedy, and mad after money. They are simply developing the qualities of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance, neglecting the other quality of nature, sattva, goodness, and the Brahminical qualifications. Let me read that again. They are simply developing the qualities of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance, neglecting the other quality of nature, sattva, goodness, and the Brahminical qualifications. Therefore, the entire society is in chaos. Srila Prabhupada, calling it like it is. The Bhagavatam says that it is the duty of an advanced human being to act in such a way as to facilitate human society's attainment of the ultimate goal of life. There is a similar statement in the Vishnu Purana 3.12.45, which is next quoted in Caitanya-caritämrta. And we will stop our reading for tonight. I'm feeling a little bit tired and a little bit woozy because I had this little, well, it wasn't an operation, but a little procedure done on my forehead. And what is the name of this called thing? Lesion. They removed the lesion from my forehead. That may have seen it, and it left a kind of hole there that has to grow back. And I'm feeling, my body's feeling a little bit. So what I'm going to do is ask you now if there's any reflections or discussions or anything. Hare Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement ki jai. The followers of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Hari Krishna. Okay, your turn. They're sensitive. They can tell I'm not quite myself today. Or maybe they can't. I don't know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Okay, we got something.
Something from Bhakti and Hannah.
Well, Bhakti and Hannah, Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna, Srila Gurudev. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Glory to Prabhupada.
When we read that one should beg the Maha Mantra from the Lord and his life will be successful, what did this mean?
Well, the Maha Mantra is eternally auspicious, pure, and all-powerful. But we, in our conditioned state, we can't perceive the depth of power and influence and sweetness of the holy name. The holy name has to manifest itself in us, to us, and therefore, our hearts must be purified. The chanting purifies the heart, but we've been here for so long and our conditioning is so strong that it takes time. And in between the beginning of us beginning to chant to the time when we can perceive that the holy name and Krishna are the same, which is the goal of the chanting, then we may not perceive, we will not perceive, or we will perceive to the proportion of our purification and our qualification. And the Lord does not reveal himself through his holy name completely until we are actually qualified. Therefore, we pray constantly, please reveal yourself to me. Please allow me to chant the holy name purely, without any offense, without any contamination, without any ulterior motive. And we should chant like this constantly. And then, if we do this, then Krishna will be kind to us and reveal himself through his holy name. And Rupa Goswami, he says, just now, can't remember so good, but I will tell you the verse. He says, in the fourth verse of his Sri Namastaka, Rupa Goswami says, Yad Brahma Sakshat Kritinishtayapi Vinasham Ayati Vina Nabogaihi Apaiti Nama Purinena Tate Prarabdha Karmiti Virauti Vedaha. O holy name, the Vedas declare that meditation on the impersonal Brahman cannot bring freedom from karmic reactions, that they must be enjoyed or suffered, but that when you manifest yourself in one's consciousness, all karma at once disappears. So that's what it means to beg the holy name. To beg the Lord, the holy name, to please manifest yourself in my consciousness. So I will be cleared of all the impediments Hare Krishna.
Something from Rati Manjari.
Hey Rati, Haribol.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for reading this glorious and revolutionary information.
Yeah, this is it's particularly sweet because it's very topical and very, here we are, 500 years later, 400 and some years later, and it's just fresh and exactly pertinent and relevant to us at this time and place, especially at this time and place. Yes, thank you. It is my extreme pleasure to read these books to you out loud. That's the truth.
Something more from Rati. Excuse me, something more from Rati Manjari. She says, I like how Srila Prabhupada masterfully stirred in his writing the nationalistic pride of the Indians by singling them out as specifically qualified by birth to preach Krishna consciousness, as well as pointing out the universal nature of Krishna consciousness, able to elevate the whole world. How he glorified the true wealth of love of God, but also dared to point out the deplorable state of poverty that India has sunk to due to the lack of the preaching of Krishna consciousness. He is a real sadhu.
He is more than a sadhu. Hare Krishna, thank you for that realization.
She says, I wish you speedy and full recovery of your operation and a restful evening.
Thank you so much. Haribol, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, we'll stop here a little early, but I need a little extra rest. Now, all of you out there in cyberspace, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your company. And just knowing that you're there to read to every night is a real boon in my life. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. We'll see you tomorrow night. Same place, same time, same station. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bo.